Welcome back to the show, everyone. And today we have a very old long-term friend that I know from the HubSpot community, Nick Sal from Media Junction. Nick, welcome to Agency Live.
Hey there, Clodagh. Thanks for having me. Been looking forward to being on the show.
I know this is a long-term. I've known you, Nick, maybe over 7 years now, probably even
Yeah,
more. Yeah, because when I started in the HubSpot community, you were on the academy team. So let's
right.
start there. Talk to us about how did you end up in this crazy world of agency life?
Yeah, it is interesting, Clodagh. I've always been a creative person, and I've always liked entrepreneurship and business. So I think when you look at marketing and content creation, it's a perfect fusion of those two things, right? So that's kind of what naturally drew me to social media marketing and content management systems and technologies and stuff when I got out of college,
Right.
and that was right after the right on top of the financial crisis in 2007, 2008. And we started looking at tactics and tools online, and discovered HubSpot. Had webinars and stuff like that about how you could build a whole business on their platform, and they finally had the platform that
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs, business owners, people of all kinds who've been trying to take advantage of this explosive growth of social media and stuff on the internet. They had the platform, they had the methodology, and people were listening to them, and they had a great story and everything. And I was captivated by it. And I said, this is an idea whose time has come. Inbound marketing, inbound marketing software. Let's do it. And originally I was at an IT consulting firm, and we became customers of the product. And then I said, this isn't enough. I need to go to Boston. I want to work for this company. And if you talk to a lot of HubSpot customers and even employees, they all seem to have this magnetic draw to the
Yes.
brand and what it stood for, far beyond just features and functionality and stuff. Because there's plenty of software nowadays, especially, that can help you with that. But HubSpot had a creed, it had a methodology, it had something they believed in.
Yeah.
And I'm also, I think, at my heart, a cause marketer. For me, it's not about all the tools and the tech. It's about the cause and like the vision. And again, HubSpot just had that in spades. So joined the company, and and that was in 2011. And they had a new division, which was because HubSpot was realizing that there was a bunch of these marketing agencies around that time that were saying, hey, marketing has changed. People are no longer just asking us for print work or PR work, or even just kind of old school, low level SEO maintenance, website maintenance agreements. Technology was changing, buyers were changing, the internet was maturing. And so these marketing agencies, their clients were even talking to them about HubSpot and articles they were reading on HubSpot's blog and things like that. And these agencies said, we want to partner with you. We need to get into business with you because I want to be able to offer what you guys offer to our clients. And I think HubSpot saw an opportunity that here's a bunch of small businesses, scrappy small businesses, very near and dear to HubSpot's heart, who could be evangelists for
Yeah.
them around the nation. And at that time, it's hard to look at it now, where pretty much every software company, as soon as they start, they're like, how do we start a channel and get a bunch of digital agencies and consulting firms and stuff like that to go ahead and start hawking our product? This was a very innovative thing at the time. Most marketing agencies had never had a software tool of choice or a software platform of choice that they were offering to their clients and doing work with their clients on. So this
Yeah.
team at HubSpot, when I joined it, I was always on the customer service side, like helping onboard customers and get people up and running with marketing and digital marketing. This was to teach other agencies not only how to do that themselves, to become their own best version of their local sort of HubSpot, but also to then build a business around it and teach
Right.
others to do what we would teach them how to do. And you could fit that team when I joined in around 2011 around a conference table.
Yeah.
And Clodagh, it's even that in your time, it was international, and now there's
Yeah.
hundreds of people all around the world, and there's thousands of partners doing, hundreds of millions of dollars of services and revenue around this tool. So pretty amazing. But anyway, joined that program and then helped probably over 150 agencies. You were doing the same thing, Clodagh, right?
Yeah. We're doing the same thing.
Get
That's right. Over in
about eight or
Dublin.
eight or
Yeah.
eight or 10 new marketing agencies who were all interested in bringing inbound and digitization and all-in-one process and tracking and management to their clients.
Mm.
And a lot of these agencies And I'm sure business owners can relate, because I started to get to know a lot of them. Those were the people I worked with, were the owners or sort of directors and partners in these agencies. A lot of them were smaller agencies, but there's thousands of them doing a lot of good work for a lot of businesses out there. Those were the bread and butter. HubSpot always focused on the middle market and even like the SMB type things. And we did the same thing with our choice of agencies that we partnered with. And I think that was why we had such a great following and a loyal following, is because HubSpot gave these agencies the time of day and gave them pride and support and something to believe in, something to stand behind, and help boost their brand and their availability and their credibility. So anywho, as you know, we'd get 8 or 10 of these new agencies, small business owners from around the world, and talk to them about how they can practice inbound, teach their clients how to do the same.
Yeah.
And it grew, didn't it? Right. So then
it grew rapidly.
Yeah. And there was a strong,
big.
And you and I mean, there was a whole team of us, right, on both sides of the pond there, training one-on-one and sometimes in small group coaching sessions a little bit here and there, and some informal decks and webinars, kind of the Wild West. And there was an opportunity, this team HubSpot Academy was forming up that was saying, why, instead of talking to everybody one-on-one, why don't we actually start putting webinars on, and then maybe start making videos of some of the content, because it's not totally unique, everything you're teaching them. Some of it needs to be customized, and we'll create a hybrid. We'll have great videos and content for sort of the general, always true, foundational best practices for the tools, processes to work with clients, processes to work with us at HubSpot as their supporters of these agencies. We started to create a bit of a curriculum around how it would work to be a HubSpot agency partner. And then they wanted to create like a certification to get a badge and a test so we could kind of start to regulate and certify. This is all agencies have wanted, is credibility and a real perception of expertise and value in sometimes a crowded market. It's tough to quantify and judge who's really good, what's really good, trustworthy work.
Right. There used to be a lot of smoke and mirrors in that market, and now it's getting a lot more clearer. There's certifications, there's best practices, there's standards. It's a lot more clear. But as all good things come to an end, what was the day that you decided, you know what, I need to move on? We both had those definitive moments when it was, thanks, I had a great time here, but now time to move on to a new opportunity. What was that day like?
Yeah, and it's interesting and probably different it's probably a different experience, my early career versus other people who've always been willing to be an entrepreneur. That's all they ever want to do. And they've always run their own businesses. When you and I were there was a few hundred people at HubSpot. Suddenly it became 1,500 people on 3 continents, and the company had gone public and been public for a year. I mean, we'd just gone through so many milestones, and I said, I was getting, as the company started to specialize and grow, and there were layers and layers of management and people and departments, I felt things become more about navigating the bureaucracy, at least from where I was and in my position, working with things in HubSpot Academy and so on. We spent more time maintaining content than I was in actually getting in the trenches, working with the owners, practicing inbound marketing, and really playing with the tools and the software, and the great features that were coming out. So as I was working with all these partners, and I think agency business owners can relate, we haven't quite cracked the model. I saw many agencies grow to like the diamond level of, which is one of the highest volume of onboarding customers, selling HubSpot, like basically meaning you worked with a ton of customers to teach them inbound marketing powered on a tool like HubSpot. And yet it didn't seem that people were hitting fully their vision and their growth goals. Sure, they had more revenue than they ever had before. They had more stable client retainers and relationships, being able to charge more than ever before. But then a new host of issues would come on about staffing, scaling, being able to retain, maintenance of quality, scaling your client management processes. How do you add in new services? Because after a couple of years, it wasn't just about marketing, but there could be sales enablement. These were inevitable things that clients and HubSpot would want to address as you move down the funnel. And all of those were all big challenges. And agencies would come to us at HubSpot and say, what do we do? And a lot of times it was all theory. We did not truly intimately know the experience of what it was to run a professional services firm partnered with the software firm that we were in. So I wanted to go out there, basically is what I'm saying, Claude. Part of me was like, HubSpot's getting bigger.
Into the big world.
I love inbound. And it was not a problem really with HubSpot, the company. It was almost like a Seinfeld moment. I'm like, I want to go out on a high note. I don't want to have there be a lull or a negative moment. I'm starting to feel a little bit of a lull, like a little bit of a plateau.
Yeah.
happening. And I figured, why not help these agencies figure out more, help HubSpot figure out more, how we can run this thing better. If I could take what I could see from the inside of HubSpot working with these agencies on that side, combine it with what leading agencies knew on this side and help solve some of their struggles, turn them around, help them grow, whatever, I could be valuable in my perspective
Nice. Yeah.
to other agencies, to other software companies, maybe back to HubSpot or something like that. So
Right.
that was all I really knew, Clodagh, and sought out an agency that I had onboarded and worked with for a long time, a platinum partner that I knew well. And we went back many years, and I felt that they trusted me and I could trust them. They'd let me run their agency for a year and learn a thing or two, help them grow, and everybody wins. So that's what I did.
Awesome. And then
Yeah.
what was that journey like? What was the kind of biggest thing when you did get out? What was the biggest thing you sort of realized, oh, right, what I thought is happening is real, or was it different?
Oh, no. Much of it was real because all the surface stuff you could see if you were on phone calls with people who were in agencies was obvious. Yes, we're in a creative business. There's retainers, there's projects. We do thousands of dollars in services and things like that. We help people use HubSpot. That was obviously all true. What was somewhat hidden, and I think what's difficult for people to appreciate if you're not in an agency, even the clients and so on, is just the sheer amount of project management, scope control, the ability to have a high EQ, the ability to work with corral personalities and keep things in check, to draw the line, because you're creating an extremely amorphous product when you do creative services for people.
Yeah.
A blog post is not a blog post. An email is not an email. A website is not a website. SEO is not SEO. Everybody has some slight different opinion as to what that means when you say all of those words.
Right.
And you might think you and your client who's hiring you to help them create such things, that we're all on the same page, but you don't really know until they see the mock-up, the creative brief, the outline. You don't get a glimmer of that. You may not truly know until they see the finished product. And then they go, that's not what I meant. That's not what I like. And you're like, whoa.
That's not what I ordered. That's not what it says on the tin.
Doesn't come up too often in software sales, because the feature is the feature. Maybe the feature didn't perform exactly as described or something like that, but that was more rare. Suddenly there were issues that professional services firms are not the same as software firms. And the software at HubSpot said, hey, just sign everybody up for auto recurring services, just like we sign up for people for subscriptions to our software. Get people to subscribe to your services, stamp out the services every single month. You stabilize your cash flow. You'll be able to staff and hire. You'll be able to scale. Everybody wins. Right?
Simple, right?
Simple. Yeah. Except that there's like people involved in the middle of all that. As these aren't just servers, with software. Hey, if I didn't log into HubSpot that whole month, and even though I signed up for it, and stuff like that, that's my fault. That's on me. But if the client doesn't feel that what they paid for in a services retainer was fully realized, that's kind of on the agency.
Got it. Yeah.
To prove. So there was a little bit of that. So just I'll say project management and the need to control scope and the need to scope things correctly and to control stakeholders' expectations, far underappreciated, I think, from the outside. And the amount of time, effort, and skill that is needed on that.
And the people aspect, like
yes.
what I've noticed time and time again is creative digital marketing agency people who start their business are just not really the best people managers. They're very creative. They're entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs rarely are good at managing people. They're motivational. They're inspirational. They can stand up and do a great team meeting. But when it comes to the nuts and bolts of keeping routines and understanding how a team works and how a person works and getting into the people management side of things, huge discrepancy.
Huge. So the people are your resource versus like servers and code and stuff like that. Yeah. Now, yes, some agencies have built up intellectual property. You've got your own sort of code bases or proprietary things you've built, but let's all be honest. It's still the majority of it is talent.
That's right. Ability to do results. Yeah.
Right. So I think that was a big wake-up call for me, Clodagh, is I'm having meetings with the team to try to organize ourselves more and to discuss and align and to start to flesh out sort of new offerings and stuff like that. I don't think what I appreciate until months and months in is I'm like, that's all money just out the window. I mean, everybody who's in that room, that's that's all billable time if it's during the daytime.
Yeah.
So there was those types of realizations. And then the controlling the project scope, because even if you have people who can do good work, if there isn't a strong and adept personality to manage the whole account and the expectations of your client, your people can still be led off into different directions. So I think that's another thing you talk about with entrepreneurs, maybe not managing the people directly or the projects directly, but then also not managing the clients well enough. If you're going to do high level, good paying work, you're going to be working for directors of marketing, CEO, C-level type people. Sometimes these people got to where they were because they have high expectations, strong personalities, a lot of experience.
That's right. Yeah.
And if you try to put, a 20-something person, that's nothing against age, just somebody who does not have the years of seniority and experience, it's sometimes tough for that person on their own to always have the control, the credibility, and the force of personality to keep the retainer under control, especially if something slips up.
That's right. Yeah.
And that is somewhat inevitable in this creative,
always
multifaceted work.
Something goes wrong all the time.
Yeah. So there's all these little dynamics, and I'm like, I just never want to be in our client's pocket, meaning like we owe them because we slipped up last week, last month. So it was a constant battle to try to maintain and make sure that we were always on we had the initiative, we had the credibility, we kept our deadlines, we followed through on everything, and that would give us the sort of the moral leverage to ask our client to do the same, or have them understand we'd have to adjust the scope and stuff like that. So I don't know, it just became this whole world of professional services, right? It is different than selling products.
Very, very different. Yeah, it really is different. Yeah. And what, if you describe today, what are the types of clients that you work with in Media Junction, and what type of work do you do? Is there a particular industry or?
Yeah. So yeah, I that's true. I don't want to dwell too much, on some of the past agencies, but it's the journey that brought me here. Media Junction's another Diamond agency partner. They were another partner I onboarded over almost 9 years ago. Known these folks forever. They're out of St. Paul, and like Diamond Partners, Platinum and Diamond Partners, I think they follow HubSpot's lead and example, and that's a good thing in terms of the types of customers they have. These are mid-market companies. I think these are almost in every case companies that do over $1 million in revenue every year, and I'd say that's the minimum. A lot of these companies, some of our clients could be billion-dollar publicly traded companies. Those are, on the other end of the bell curve there. So maybe there's a few clients on one end of the bell curve where they might do $1 million or slightly less, or somewhere in that little neighborhood, $1 million or $2 million or something like that. But that's professional services firms, accounting firms, legal firms, local ones, and things of that nature. We'll take on some of those because it's the types of you have to be at that size to have an investment in an agency makes sense.
Of course. Yeah. That's the ideal amount. Yeah. Because they have the income to spend on the marketing.
Yeah, I've worked with Platinum and Diamond Partners for the last 4.5 years out here, working literally in the channel as a leading employee or as a sales representative or both, in these agencies. And it usually is the average annual. So first of all, these are longer term plays. Most of these we're not in there for a little quick term project. If we were, it's because it's a land and expand opportunity. I know that that's a lot of buying trends have gone that way, and I've embraced that fully. Sure, let's both try before we buy, because it's going to be a big investment in a relationship for either party, the client or us. I think a lot of agency owners can appreciate that sometimes the cost of the client relationship and maintaining that was far more than you got revenue wise.
Right.
A client is not a client either.
True.
Some of them are just they are. And it may not even be their fault. They're not bad people, but because of the nature of their organization, the nature of how they regulate and work with their vendors, just might have a higher cost to maintain as a client. These are, again, all these little variables one has to account for, especially at scale, if you're trying to build something stable and something big, as an agency.
And what type of work are you doing for them?
Sure. So a lot of the work will be based around their digital marketing, their website, I think is primarily where you begin.
Right.
Is what's going on with the main website, what's going on with the message for the company. So especially at Media Junction is one thing I really enjoyed working with this firm. Still my first year with them, working for them, but is their creative strengths, the branding. So here at Media Junction, we begin with branding, brand messaging. So we're down to the logo, company names and stuff. That's really fun. It's fun to be able to be hired to come up with what's a better name for the company? What's a domain we could get that could work? How can we put a color swatch behind that? How can we put a shape or an image behind that? How can we make a whole library of icons and images that kind of represent that and explain, extrapolate that a bit more? How can we come up with a brand message, like a script? Like what's the story? What's the pitch of this? Well, I mean, helping companies craft their stories is pretty cool. These
Nice.
are, software companies that are in their, few years in, getting first few $1 million and that type of stuff. Manufacturing companies, a couple hundred employees, making, big ticket industrial items and stuff like that. Again, professional services firms, B2B software companies, helping them with anything in that spectrum. Some of them already have branding, styling, or something like that already done elsewhere. Great. We'll design the website to bring that brand into the website, let's say.
Brilliant.
So it's a lot of, we have designers, web developers, content writers and content creators. Anybody who's involved in inbound content marketing knows that you need to be involved at least on the content strategy side, if not outright copywriting for people and stuff like that. And then marketing automation, just the back end, drip email campaigns. What happens if the website works? What happens if the marketing works and people contact you? They show interest. How do you track that? How do you report that? How do you notify people internally? How do you get the next email message going out automatically to these people? That type of stuff.
Cool. And HubSpot's obviously a part of your tech stack. What else are you guys using?
Yeah. And again, I mean, and I hope people don't just, pause the episode or turn it off going, well, I know all about HubSpot, or I'm just not into HubSpot. We chose it because we felt
Hopefully
that,
they stay a bit longer.
right. Yeah.
My
I hope
stats
so.
say they do.
Yeah. Right. And I would say I'm not like just trying to be a HubSpot fanatic. We chose them because they were a highly ranked software that continues to try to run the gamut of wherever our services are going. Wherever client demand seems to be going, there's a software solution powered on HubSpot. So it's much easier for us to train our team to focus on one software tech stack, which already is cavernous. If you really think about it, the amount of features and benefits just in HubSpot alone,
Huge.
it's a
Yeah.
full-time job practically to keep up with that. So there's that, but I'm glad you asked. There's other things in the arsenal that I've been using the last few years that clients should be using. They start using, such as video in the sales process. So Zoom, of course, is a tool in the arsenal for our clients and for us. But then also things like Drift Video, Vidyard Go Video I've used. Wistia Soapbox is okay. But starting to use that in our own communication stack, but then also teaching clients how to bring video into their sales process,
Right.
put video follow-up messages, quick reviews of proposals and stuff before you send them over to the prospect, check-in messages. Video is just far more interesting to get in an email or on a web page than just plain text alone.
Yeah.
We know this. So those tools are in our arsenal. Also, we have a partnership with this company called Site Improve. And this is something I've really enjoyed exploring more with Media Junction because we focus here, which is in accessibility. Media Junction, just by the very nature, I think, of our founders' sort of values and our beliefs, like we're just a very open, eclectic, diverse group of people. And I think that has driven our need and appreciation to make sure that clients' websites are very open and accepting places for people of all capabilities.
Right.
And there is actually good documentation and in some industries, compliance necessary to make sure if somebody has a vision issue, if somebody has an can't hear properly or has trouble seeing, that they have options to still be able to consume your website and to communicate with you, to contact you, to interact with your web properties. So this company, Site Improve, has helped pioneer that software that will basically help help users understand this is in compliance, this is out of compliance, tweak this here, not this there. Can scan the code to make sure that some of those options are in play, because as people update content, as they tend to do on websites over time, things can fall out of compliance. The formatting of the text that somebody published now is off from the original text, stuff like that. So there's a couple of these different tech stacks that we've used in that regard. And then we use Proposify, which is our proposal software. I've also used PandaDoc. So I think proposal software, especially if you're in professional services, is table stakes now, in my opinion. So there's a few that come to mind for you, Clodagh.
And what about there's a story? Something?
Oh yeah, so this is actually something else I've really enjoyed with.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that for the Story brand. No.
Well, okay, yeah. So I think agency owners can appreciate this too, that there's partnerships with technology. That I already told you about that wave, right? From the 2010s and stuff like that. Obviously, agencies have been taking technology, and as these agencies have scaled, there's been a need to take in more kind of operational know-how beyond getting some new features and benefits from a software tool.
Mm-hmm.
Agency owners, I think, can appreciate this, who've gotten, EOS, traction, people who have brought that in. That's partnering with process.
Got
That's
it. Yeah.
partnering with know-how. So one thing I saw here that Media Junction had pursued is a partnership with this organization called StoryBrand. This very successful author, writer, Donald Miller, wrote a book called Building a Story Brand, and smart guy built a whole platform around it. It does live up until recently, had done live in-person trainings in their headquarters in Nashville. Now they're doing them all virtual, and it's certified and would train other organizations, copywriters and agencies like Media Junction, on how they could apply some of these great best practices that he put in this best-selling book. It's very similar to the EOS model, I'd like to think, except maybe a little bit more dynamic.
Incredible.
Partner channel. So we had the Media Junction already invested to have those folks fly out to to St. Paul, where Media Junction's headquarters are, trained our whole team on how can we better help, because we already knew design development very well. Yes, we did web copy, we did SEO, thought we did a pretty good job at it. We always want to get better. And this company has all the best practices to do really great messaging on your homepage and make it very clear what your website is all about, and to put the visitor as the hero in the story, not as many companies position, which is themselves as the hero.
Yes.
But that's what the visitors think. They go, wait, I'm a hero. So if you're a hero on your own quest, I'm a hero on my own quest. Well, good luck to you. I need to go find a guide to go help me, because I want someone who thinks about me as being the hero. That is, we have articles about it. That's the essence of, I think, the philosophy that struck us as, just like with HubSpot, I said, these guys get it. So we've partnered and brought in know-how for messaging, and they've got some tools and frameworks that we're licensed to use. And that allows us to provide even better services. And I think that's interesting for agency owners to think about, because it doesn't require buying software. The people at StoryBrand were not saying, buy our software. They said, get trained on these best practices, take our know-how, take maybe some templates or two here and there, but mostly our know-how, and join our community and become a better communicator, a better writer, a better facilitator to get your clients to change the tone and the angle of what they're writing about and saying what they're all about, and who they're there to support on their homepage.
Yeah, I've heard that name come up over and over again. So I think it's definitely worth, I'll put a link in the show notes to actually talk about that. You've just brought something up that we will talk about now, about the fact that they moved from physical events to virtual events. If whenever you're listening to this, we've got evergreen content on here, but we're at the end of May 2020. I'm currently coming into, I think it's the third month of lockdown in Ireland.
Yes. I'm here in Massachusetts, one of the most, infected states in the Union.
Yeah. What's been coming up for you that's different over the last few months, and how have things changed in the agency and also with your clients?
A couple of things. Well, I think I was earlier on the curve with the sort of remote working arrangements. I had been working remote for over 3 years prior to the lockdown, because again, that was another something I was looking for. Was I was commuting a lot into Cambridge, where HubSpot's headquarters were. I was starting a family. I just wanted to have some more work-life balance and some better lifestyle choices, which again, I think a lot of agency owners can relate to them at least wanting and maybe getting at times, at least at the outset. So that was helpful. So being able to just adapt to working remotely. As you can see, I have a home office already set up. This wasn't something I had to throw together. So, and I know, Clodagh, you can relate to that. So that was good. Be adept and comfortable with remote. Be comfortable with microphones. Be comfortable with good lighting. Be comfortable with doing business and presenting yourself as effectively as possible as you can from where you're at. That those standards don't change just because, there's this new technology. Some people are fumbling around. Nobody quite knows how to use it well. That's not an excuse, in my opinion. So I think just embracing remote and saying, how can I be heard and seen and understood as effectively as possible, is everybody's responsibility.
Which is really easy for us to do in the digital marketing community, because we have downloaded everything, tried everything, However, there is a big, huge group of people out there who are still struggling with working from home because they do not have a growth mindset. They are not flexible to new things. They are waiting for things to return to normal. And I've heard this come up over again. Agencies are like, why can't they work from home? It's like, because of their mindset and the fact that they haven't been trying all the new technology like you have. I think we all try something new every week in the agency world. And we're used to that,
There's opportunity to help those people. to create
Huge.
content that can lead them along,
Yeah.
to provide some consulting services, come up with new services. That's another fun thing I think that we get to do in the professional services and the agency services world. We don't have to buy a new machine
No,
to be
that's
able
it. We don't have to
to
make a new machine or make a new
yeah.
factory. Yeah.
Right. We can just spin up and come up with new services. I come up with hybrid versions of our services pretty much on a weekly basis to
Yeah.
accommodate unique needs and situations that clients have. So get innovative and help these people along. But if they're not going to be helped, these are the same unfortunate, laggards who in other, changes of technology and stuff like that were left behind. Less
Right.
nimble organizations, if they will not listen, you can't just, beat your head up against the wall there. You gotta move on. Sometimes that might not be a good fit client anymore. It's
Exactly.
something
Yeah.
else.
Have you experienced much of that through, what are you seeing with the clients that you work with when it comes to
Well,
the differences?
I will say, are fortunate because of two things. Number one, focusing on, I think the SMB market for some people is risky, but I think these are also organizations that are not beholden to shareholders,
Mm,
that they have their own flexibility, and they were started by entrepreneurs who took risks, and these entrepreneurs are still in charge, and they say, I'm moving ahead.
yeah.
So we didn't have a major cutback of a lot of our clients. We were all bracing for that. Trust me, I were like, here we go. But the people who paused were ones who, larger organizations, publicly traded organizations, some of those things, there were pauses, there were reductions in budgets and things of that nature, but they were replaced by people who said, let's say this is an example, but we're a corporate landscaping business. People are going to still want their condo complexes lawns mowed. They're still going to want to have the golf course
Right.
look
Ever
nice.
more than ever. I have
Yeah,
never ever seen the house proudness of people. And as soon as the gardeners were able to come back, they were booked, because
right,
people have more time at home and they've realized that they
right,
are going to be at home a little bit more often. So they're,
right,
I know I'm seeing things that I probably wouldn't have seen before because I'm spending more time at home. So there
right,
are definitely things. Do you
right.
think overall, because that's what I'm hearing, Nick, is overall, most agencies have adapted, have found new services, have found new opportunities. There might have been a dip, but they found new ways.
I think there's the second part. So one is and you and I have talked about this offline before, Clodagh, that to have maybe a more diverse portfolio of clients. If you had a diverse portfolio that was not focused in a particular vertical, then
You
if that
know,
vertical got adversely impacted, you didn't go all out. You only lost a couple of clients. Whereas if you focused on hospitality or luxury or whatever, travel or something like that,
yeah,
you pick some sort of
hotels, yeah, or a
you know,
particular geography as well. If you
right, right.
combined those and went, oh, this city, this, yeah,
Right.
okay,
It's fun. I mean, it was really interesting to see our diverse clients that it was like a portfolio. There were some that had to pull back, like I just told you, but there were some IT consulting firms, they're shooting up in terms of
right,
their business demand. They're
yeah,
calling and saying, I need you to take care of this for me
mm,
because I can't even keep up. Our phones are ringing off the hook over here for people to help get, remote technology going and other things like
yeah,
that. So having a diverse portfolio was important. And the second of all is having a good pipeline and a source of leads. The agency owners I've kept in touch with who are still, you know, in kind of in a bad way, is they had long-term client relationships
mm,
that allowed them to scale, and some of those relationships have just evaporated in terms of the financing available.
yeah,
So if you have a smaller group of longer term clients, and that's how you've been relying on your business, you didn't have that funnel. If you don't
mm,
have that pipeline, that's what's troublesome.
right,
The being in a leading, well-known, reputable, highly ranked position as a HubSpot agency partner has sent more of those clients our way. And then also getting in kind of on the early side and being a leading partner with the Story brand and that growing community, that growing following has sent a lot of businesses our way
mm.
as well. We're not guaranteed those leads from either organization,
Oh
but
God, no, yeah,
they were opportunities to get in front of a following, a larger group, and get access to those and have credibility with a group of business owners. So I
yeah.
think if your agency is still hurting right now amidst all of your pivoting and innovation and so on, if you're still short a few clients, and it's probably because you need to be able to level up in whatever sort of partnership or pool that you have access to, or find a new one.
Right.
You can. What's a growing movement from a software perspective, from a methodology perspective? Who's certifying partners? Who's certifying coaches? Who's certifying facilitators, implementers, things like that, that you can get a part of. And probably your team has a little bit of time. It's another thing that we did at Media Junction, to train up, to start getting
Yeah, I
trained
was
up.
going to ask you that. What are you doing differently in the agency that perhaps other agencies can kind of hear about?
Yeah. So Media Junction's 23 people. When I was at Impact, a diamond agency before that, we were 65 people.
Mm-hmm.
So Media Junction, great group of folks, and we're all very tight. And we decided to set a goal once all this hit, to say, if you have any downtime, because we're still looking to fill a slot from a client who paused or whatever it is, let's all rally around getting up to date with some of the certification and training material from HubSpot especially, but also from StoryBrand, from Google Analytics, Google Ads. Drift, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, Drift. So we had a channel we created called the Certifications channel on Slack, where people would just post all their badges and certificates. Amazing. Became a little contest. We kept a spreadsheet. We got over 220 new certifications as a team.
Jeez, that's a great idea.
Even I got a couple. The sales guy, I even had time to get a couple.
Does that blow your mind when you think about how many certifications there were when you first started in the academy?
Oh my God. Yeah. I gave the first HubSpot certification, 2013. I remember Mark Hillens, head of academy, comes into me and goes, Nick, you and Sarah Bedrick are going to deliver the HubSpot certification. I was like, we don't have that yet. And he's like, yeah, I know. We're going to premiere it at Inbound, and you guys will present it, and just like take all the hours of footage that we talk about, all the tools, like just cram it into like 4 hours, or like, so you could do this part for normally cover in like an hour, do it in like 15 minutes. There'll be no time for questions. It was crazy. It was wild.
That's amazing.
That's what I love, Clodagh, when you think about what I've enjoyed most from this experience, out of all the creative content things I have done or I could be doing, from HubSpot all the way through working with these awesome, agency teams in the trenches, is being able to create those types of experiences. If they're an in-person training experience, that's great. But virtual as well. Love to kind of host and facilitate an event where virtual or otherwise, where people all learn something and move ahead.
Right.
They make a breakthrough.
And how many certifications are in HubSpot right now, by the way?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I mean, it went from maybe 5 or 6 when I was there to easily 20, 30, 40, and they're launching more, because all you have to do is to be able to wrap a body of knowledge, a series of videos, into something that can be assessed and tested with a little bit of a takeaway.
Yeah,
so
it's brilliant.
It's absolutely ballooned. But I think what the good news is not to try to take all of them, but just to really finally have a choice, to not just take all the general surveys.
You've got to pick your lane of expertise. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Yeah,
I got certified in demoing the software, onboarding new clients, because I wanted to make sure I set them up for success being onboarded with our services team. And I picked out my few.
Yeah, you pick it. You pick a lane. You don't have to do the 30. You pick a lane. Some people do, but you don't have to. So you did that certification channel. What else did you do differently since March?
Media Junction, I just like at Impact, I was one of Impact's first employees back in the day, and now here at Media Junction, I was one of their first remote employees. I like being a maverick.
You are a maverick, without a doubt. Yes.
I don't often use that word myself, but I suppose, yeah. And so now the whole agency, of course, had to go remote. This is probably true for a lot of organizations. Maybe you dabbled in it, and Media Junction had offered just to meet the needs of the employees, some like remote Wednesdays. They've done 1 or 2 days a week, and maybe a lot of agencies were in that situation. Now everybody was remote. So I think actually things got a little bit better in that stuff that where we would normally, they would wait to run into each other in the hallway in St. Paul or, in a conference room. Now we had to document a lot more than we already were, certainly.
More documentation, more communication, right?
Yep, more collaboration than we did. And also there was something for us to rally around. I mean, Media Junction has a strong brand and identity and stuff like that. But now there was something like, we're going to do this. We're going to get through this as a team. And we're going to push forward towards goals, get the certifications, go hit the elite tier, which is the new tier they invented.
Yes.
Above diamond and stuff like that. Love when they do that. Love having something to shoot for that's a win-win for everybody. So we've rallied behind growth goals. And then also we've done, we were calling them quarantinis, ask me anything, AMAs. Every Wednesday, we'll do a different team member. I did mine a couple weeks ago. We do a different team member. We can submit questions on a Google form, and we all hang out. People can have their beverage of choice, after it's like a happy hour sort of hour.
Fantastic.
And we've gotten to know employees. Like, I feel tighter with this group now
Yeah, because you're
then
going through something together.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, embracing the experience, I suppose. And I'm sure people have heard this and read this elsewhere, but it can't be said enough. We as entrepreneurs, as creative business people, need to embrace this opportunity. Nobody else can be as agile as we can to invent a new solution of how to redeploy our talent, our project management ability, our ability to work digital assets for our clients. There are many companies right now that need agencies to help them. And we've gotten more creative in how we structure and how we pricing. Sure, you can go on and on about that, but it's about still finding great organizations to work with. Maybe you can't get in with them on the same packaging or the same pricing that you did before, but coming up with a land and expand opportunity, a phased thing. Maybe it's just a bridge of services to get them over the COVID sort of
Yeah.
lockdown, but staying with these organizations, getting into these organizations and helping them just in the short term, puts you in a much better position to bring them on as longer term major clients later. That's what we're
Right.
getting.
That's great.
Yeah.
With all the agencies that you've worked with since HubSpot, with the ones that you've worked with since you've left HubSpot, what are the things that you find have been the same, and what have you found that's different about them?
I'd say what is the same is the need to build a funnel and a pipeline. You need to always have fresh opportunities of people looking to work with you so you can control revenue. And then I think you also need a fresh pipeline of talent. You need to have there be people at your organization who are almost in their own funnel and pipeline. They need to be where they're at and then leveling up to the next thing. They need to be hurtling towards their future at your organization. They need to see it clearly. It needs to be documented and planned. That's always the same, is that if that's in place, more momentum, more buy-in, less friction, less headaches.
Right.
If that's not yet in place, or if it's rather informal, more confusion, more friction, more conversations, stirring the pot of what do we do, where are we going, what's happening, woe is me, stuff like that. So having clear direction for everybody, and having a funnel of clients. If you have that two things, people who want to work at your firm and people who are working at your firm are wanting the next thing at your firm, and clients who are still contacting you, prospective clients that are contacting you, at least a couple of dozen a month, ideally, opportunities, you're in great shape. That has always been
in great shape,
to build a multi-million-dollar professional services firm. If you don't have either, or if you have a bad hire or a bad client, it's always the same. Those will be more expensive. I think those are fairly consistent. After that, it's been different. So you can do a lot of different. You can have an agency. It was a lot of what Impact did, whereas mostly consulting. They did some web development, some of the more complex technical stuff, and mostly it was consulting and training internal employees. Was what they chose to kind of focus on. Media Junction is far more on the branding, creative, a lot more on the deliverables, and getting in on that end. So that's different. You can pick what your focus is, how you want to work with clients, what areas you want to work with clients, but you're going to need those two, I think. And then great project management, great operations management in the
processes, procedures, documentation, best practices.
What we do is so amorphous. It does not naturally have a beginning, middle, and end. It doesn't have like these features and this specs, and that's what you get. So if you're not watching that carefully, it can run away from you.
Yes.
And especially if you're a creative person who's comfortable with gray area, your employees, and you've talked about this in your course, Clodagh, are not normally wired that way. Otherwise, they'd be running their own agencies. They wouldn't be working for you.
Yeah.
So if they're working for you, they want to get all the fun creative part and have you help guide them and keep it under control.
Yes. That's what they need those controls and those guidelines. And your clients need to see the start, middle, and end of things. They can understand that things are going to be ups and downs, but they need to see the framework. And that's what they prefer to do. So it sounds like with Media Junction right now that you are like creating your own sort of ecosystem in the middle of what's going on. What do you think is the future plan for the rest of this year? Like, we're coming up next week is the 1st of June. So halfway through the month, like that's blowing, halfway through the year. Yeah. That is blowing my mind, especially as I was meant to be on a plane like 4 or 5 times already. And at various different conferences. And by the looks of things, like that doesn't look like it's very likely. What's your kind of looking forward for the rest of the year? What is your kind of opportunities, predictions for how you and the business is going?
Yeah, we all know that everybody's plans for what this year was supposed to all be about just got turned on their head. So I think if you haven't accepted that yet, then that's step number one. That it's
there
not
is no
happening.
going back to normal.
Yeah.
FYI.
Right. The plan is not happening.
No.
However, let's wake up to the fact that there's still, I don't know, 7-8 billion people on earth. They still all, have to get up in the morning and they need services and they're going to do business and stuff like that. And this is capitalism, folks. This is what we all signed up for. So the person who can meet their needs the fastest and get them what they want now, this is what people hire us to do. Yes?
Yeah.
Is to study audiences, update personas. You might actually have to do a little bit more research now on this persona.
Right. And be more flexible and open, and don't sit there. I think this is what if you can as an agency, is don't sit there and go, why have they not learned how to be remote? Go and help them. I know it's boring. I know it's rudimentary for you. Like I've been on Zoom for I think about 5 years.
Love up on your clients. Love up on your clients.
Sit down and figure out how are you going to help them with all of this. And yes, it might be very basic work, but if you get them to work more harmoniously, working remote and with communication, tools like Slack, tools like Zoom, stuff that like the back of your hand, help them. Once they become more productive, then you can move them on to more digital marketing services. You'll become their valued provider. So as somebody now, I'd love to just get some tips from you, because you are an experienced working from home person. How do you balance everything right now? Because we're coming into the 3rd month of people working from home. For people who did not apply for work from home jobs.
Yes.
And they are struggling. There are some big struggles out there. Things like overworking and not shutting the door on the office or not shutting the laptop down. And it's most of my conversations around that. So how do you balance everything?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love this question. I mean, and I'll have to keep it brief. But we can always talk about it further if people are interested. And that's another thing I want to say, no matter what, is that if Clodagh was nice enough to have me come on and touch on just a few things, but I've learned a lot, I've seen a lot, and I care deeply about what we're all doing as creative professionals here. So creative business people. So if you want to chat with me, I'm easy to find online. Nick Salvatoriello. It's not many of us on earth.
Not many of you on earth. That's
pretty easy to find. But the question was, what was the question there?
Balancing your work life, especially as an experienced remote worker.
Yes. Sorry. Took a little segue there.
That's okay.
I find, just because I'm a tech geek like this, hopefully this is good for other people. I leaned into technology. Yeah. Obviously, you already heard me touch upon, just get into some of the aesthetics of stuff that you maybe haven't bothered doing. Get yourself a nice little mic, not an expensive mic, but get a mic like this. It's a $60 mic. Get some lighting going on, okay? Carve out a space in your house, which I'm sure you already have begun to do, but look at it as an asset, as a resource. This is no longer a Band-Aid. This is no longer a temporary, camp I'm setting up in the corner here. This is your money factory. This should be given as best you can from a setup standpoint. A lot of states are opening up now. Maybe you can do that at a co-working spot, but find your corner of the universe that you still can control and it's safe for you to go to and own it. Lean into it, man. And then also start to produce the habits and the triggers and the cues that you had to rely on somebody else to provide to you. So I set my alarm at 7:30 to go off to basically tell me that my commute's kind of starting now. That's finish up what you're doing, finish playing with the kids, get dressed, get ready, whatever it is. That's my alarm. And then also I have a stopwatch that's always running next to me that's actually counting the number of hours from when I like to start work. So that will remind me of 2 things. One is if I haven't, 4 working hours have gone by and I haven't hit where I want to be at, I need to pick up the pace. Number 2, maybe it says you're already at 8.5 hours, Nick, you're already at 9 hours. It's pretty hard to stare at that and not know that to be the case.
Right.
To-do lists, planners, all that stuff takes on an increased importance because you used to rely on other triggers, the midday meeting, somebody else leaning over your shoulder, or just, or whatever.
Or just the general activity of other people working in an office or hearing something like, oh, I'm about to go home now, or like just all of that. It goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it totally goes.
So you have to replace that with other things. Yeah.
Yeah. And be comfortable with booking appointments to catch up with people. So I booked appointments to welcome new staff. Yeah. We hired new people. We've been growing and stuff like that.
Amazing.
To welcome them. I booked just some touch base. These are not official one-on-ones or anything like that. That's why I can sometimes feel weird. Like, oh, we're having an appointment. We put it on the calendar. We're in a meeting. Like we're peers to each other or whatever, or you
Yeah.
have a different manager. Fine. That's not what this meeting is about. It's about making up for the lost water cooler time or whatever that we're
Right, where
never
you would
going to
have chit
have.
chats, exactly,
Yeah.
right?
And there
That's a
can be some
great
like
idea. Yeah.
trust is built there. Like things
Mm.
can percolate, you know? So book those things and you have to book the time for it. Those types of things have really helped me. Pedometers to keep track of your steps, you know, like I've tracked a lot more. I'm a lot more introspective now in a good way, just to this is the time now to bring it all back home. Like this is the time to think about goals for yourself, for your
Yeah.
agency, for your clients. You've got a little bit of that opportunity, which we've never had quite like this before, and may not have
No.
again for some time, to really look within and to set some
Yeah.
systems up and change some habits. You know,
That is great, great advice. And I am going to end it on that because that was an incredible tip and advice. Nick, I definitely know we're going to have a follow-up. There will be a
I'd love
part
it.
2 to this.
I'd love
I
it.
want to thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
Yes.
And what's
Thank
the
you.
best way of people getting a hold of you?
You can find me on Twitter at Nick Sal Inbound. I've got my own website, nicksalinbound.com. So Nick Salvatoriello, Google it or check me out at nicksalinbound.com. Pretty good way to find me. And my agency I'm with right now, awesome group of people. Definitely look to collaborate with existing agencies or clients. If you folks are listening, looking for a good agency, mediajunction.com.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nick. I will see you again very soon.
Thank you, Clodagh.